Welcome to another Thursday morning and another episode of Seeds of Music, the web's #1 resource for independent artists. I'm your host, Kyle Williams, and this is our weekly web show where I bring on music industry professionals and successful musicians to talk about ways to build a bigger, stronger fan base and make more music-based income. Now, when I initially set up this week's interview, it was because I had gone on to Music Think Tank. And if you're not familiar with that, it's what it is. Basically, it is what it sounds like. It's a think tank for musicians who are business-minded, musicians who are marketing-minded, or just musicians who are looking for ways to grow their own careers. And it's all article-based. And when I went on this website, I came across an article called 11 Ways to Be a Happier Musician Person. And when I read through it, I really connected with all the information in there personally, and saw that it was written by our guest today, Jacquie Neville. And just to really sum up what this article is about, I'm just going to, because I don't think I can really sum it up better than her, I'm just going to read you the first paragraph in that article. As artists, we are constantly evaluating ourselves and others. In order to succeed, we make many sacrifices such as financial, social, emotional, or physical. I don't believe in the tortured artist. Being an artist can be a hard life, but it doesn't have to be. If you are mindful of what's going on with you and the world around you, you'll realize being an artist can be the most rewarding and fulfilling path you can take if you're willing to work for it. So that's the end of that. So basically, this interview with Jacquie is going to be an in-depth examination of all the different points that she covers in this article, 11 Ways to Be a Happier Musician Person. Definitely recommend that you stick around and listen to the whole interview. There's a lot of good stuff in here. So without delaying anymore, let's jump right in. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music. On the show today, we have Jacquie Neville.
Hello.
Jacquie, how's it going?
It's going great, thank you.
Oh, that was the lamest intro on my part.
It's going great.
How's it going there?
From
your friendly neighborhood. I should have just hit record when we were having the awesome Halloween costume conversation, because I was going to tell you.
Is it being aired on Halloween night? That'd be pretty cool.
No, actually, these are pre-recorded, so it's kind of dating the interview, but I don't care. I mean, I just want to tell you that I actually did dress up as Ace Ventura one Halloween.
That's pretty awesome.
And I went to a party, and no one said anything. I was very disappointed.
No one knew who you were?
I think one or two people they knew, because I had like big stripy pants, like piratey looking striped pants. Like huge black, like black boots.
Like a red collared shirt.
And then like a wife beater with the Hawaiian shirt over it. And then I tried to get, like, my hair wasn't long enough to make it like his. So I bought this, I think it was like a wig that was supposed to be Twilight. And then I sat there and like tried to tease it back. And it ended up looking like my head was like a candle flame. It was, it was red, and then I had it swooping back. I mean, I thought it was awesome. I was enjoying it.
It's good effort.
But
it's good.
I
like that costume. One year I dressed up as, do you know Lorraine from Ad TV?
No.
You don't know
her?
her?
Yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah.
So I dressed up as her one year, and I didn't break character at all the entire night. And I remember, like, at one point, my best friend, she took me aside and she was like, Jacquie, like, I really need to talk to you about something. Like, this is really serious. And so she, like, dives into this, like, really, like, heartfelt, like, emotionally intense story. And I just look at her blankly. And when she's done, she's, like, expecting me to say something, like, really wise. And I'm just like, That was the end of our friendship. Not actually, but she was very mad at me. She was like, I can't believe you're not breaking character for me. Come on.
Yeah,
I won best costume, though, so it was worth it.
It's only one night out of the year where you can really,
I know, where I can really be a horrible friend.
No, I think I stayed, like, I was just too depressed that no one was getting my costume, and I was just like, so I just stood there. I should have just played it for all it's worth, but I bowed out. It was just sad. But I was really happy with myself. You know what the problem was? Is I wasn't hanging out with my family, because then they would get it. And I'd be able to, be walking around all goofy and pulling
See,
off
with
the Ace
some
Ventura
costumes,
moves.
you like have to stay in character, or else it just does not translate. And we were like, "Who are you? I don't get it." I don't know. I don't know.
Well, let's. With that being said, now we got the Halloween ideas out, conversation out of the way. Let's talk about. I wanted to cover all these points that you wrote in an article.
Yeah.
Back in, let's see, August, and you posted it to Music Think Tank, and it's called 11 Ways to Be a Happier Musician Person. Because you're not just a musician, you're a person
musicians
too.
are people. We're persons.
Yeah. We're on this like journey, and we're coming across difficulties, and in a lot of ways it's just reflected in many different crafts. No matter what you do, you're running into a lot of these similar obstacles. But what I liked so much about this, and this is actually how I found out about you, and I wanted to reach out to you because it's just a really honest, great article, and it's actually it's positive, but not in an overly positive way. It's like positive coming from the experience of a musician who's gone through this and knows how it is, and is moving forward instead of like stuck in this rut where you're not making any music because you're depressed, or you're just doing the same things over and over again and not getting any results. And so let's cover the first point that you made, and I honestly think this is I can really relate to this, is that it's not about their journey as musicians. I mean, I totally screwed that up. Oh my God! It's not about the destination as much as it's about the journey. So what exactly does that mean for you?
So to me, every day is the journey. I think if you feel like you've made it, then you should just quit. Because if you feel like you've made it in music or in your art or whatever, then you're not going to really try that much harder to basically outdo yourself every time. You know what I mean?
Is that the same as thinking you're the shit? But
I
you're not quite
guess
the shit?
I don't know. I think it's kind of important to have an ego because you're also already putting yourself out there so much. So you need to think you're good enough to kind of put yourself in that position, right?
Yeah, of course.
So obviously, so when people say like, "Oh, that musician has such an ego," well, it's like, well, duh. Look what they're doing. They need to have at least something there, or else they're just gonna be totally torn to shreds and have zero self-esteem.
Yeah.
So, sorry. So back to that point, I think it's not about looking at what other people have. Like, it's really easy to look outwardly and say like, oh, well, how come that band's doing this, and how come this musician's doing that, and how come I'm here?
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe someone's looking to you and saying like, wow, look what they're doing. So to me, it's all about perspective. And yes, it's really easy to get in that like funk mode where it's like we're still sleeping on floors, or we're still starving and can't really feed ourselves, or we're eating like once or twice a day. This sucks. Obviously, the grind is really hard, and I will be the first person to admit it. It sucks. It is shitty. It is very hard. But every time you do that, it gets easier. Also, hopefully, your situations are getting better because you're obviously hopefully getting more popular and getting more attention. So therefore, your guarantees are better. So maybe you've upgraded to shitty motels instead of shitty floors. So, I think then when you get to those different, tiers, you can look back on those moments and say like, wow, look how far we've come. This is amazing. And that's why I think it's really important to just kind of live in the moment and say like, hey, like, we're living the dream. We're doing it. We're not stuck behind some like shitty computer in a cubicle. We are actually living our dream, even if it's really, really like grueling and can be daunting sometimes. It's totally worth it. Why? Because you like making music. If it was easy, then every single person would be a musician and would want to be a superstar.
But it is easy to put your music out there, so every single musician does that.
Yes.
Which is like I think an important comparison there, because if you think things that are worthwhile are supposed to be hard.
There are a lot of musicians out there. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
But what I try to focus on is the fact that like, hey, when I'm 85 years old and I'm talking to my grandkids, I'll be able to tell them all the crazy stuff I did. And they'll be like, whoa, grandma's cool. Grandma's crazy. But that's the thing. And it's so funny. I've read so many different interviews and listened to tons of videos about, like, I don't know, Joan Jett or every rock star in rock and roll history. And they always say, I look back on the moments that I was struggling so fondly now because that's when I was making my best music because I had to work so much harder. Yeah. So that's why I think if you feel like you get to a point, I feel like I'm talking in circles. I feel like if you do get to a point where you think like, I'm the shit, I've made it, boom, I'm Bono, you're going to sell yourself out to Mac and you just become a huge sellout. No, that's not the point I'm trying to make.
Shaking my head.
Basically what I'm trying to say is that if you think you've made it, then you should just give up because you're not going to be making anything better than you've already made. The whole point is that you want to keep outdoing yourself every single time and keep improving and learning and growing.
So it's almost like don't like despise like the rough situations that you're in because that's what's pushing you to make better and better music and just get.
And also put on a better show, work harder, like reach out, like, and network with more people. I think if anything, it's going to make you smart. And if someone's saying no to you, it's going to make you try even harder to get that, like a yes from somebody else or from that person. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think it's just really important to persevere and just stay focused on what you're doing and your journey and not other people's.
Yeah. What's interesting is what you're saying is echoed in a lot of entrepreneurs too. Another craft that you can pursue, that is extremely difficult, and you're very much alienated from most of society, just like if you're a musician, because no one understands what it's like to pursue that path. And
no, it's true. And oftentimes people will, like non-musician people, they'll hear you on the radio and they say, wow, like you're huge, you've made it, that's amazing. And you're like, nah, you don't even know. Yeah. But that's okay. It's an illusion. Like fake it till you make it. Why not? Yeah. But
there's a public perception that always sits outside of reality, no matter what.
Yeah. And oftentimes people don't think, like, they're like, wow, you're so lucky, you just get to like play music, it must be so easy and fun. Like, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really great, but it's definitely not easy. Definitely not easy. Yeah. People still have this weird mentality that like musicians are still those like 70s and 80s rock stars who just like do a lot of drugs and like bang women and are just belligerent. So.
Oh man. That's society's conditioning.
I do tons of drugs and bang ladies all the time. So
just
living the life.
Come on. Geez, isn't that what it's about?
Right?
Guitar, learning.
That's why I got into this, for the
composition. Forget that stuff. So on a point number 2, you said stop the hate. What's like one instance where you were just like, you'll always remember where you were getting massive amounts of hate and how you dealt with that?
So my point in that article specifically, the hate goes kind of both ways. I think for me, when I was a younger musician in my like late teens and early 20s, I would usually hate on bands if I felt like they were doing better. And then I realized, I'm like, that's really stupid because they probably worked really hard to get where they are, and I'm only seeing what they're now showing me, right? I have no idea what their struggles are in their life and what they went through to get to that point. Yeah. So why am I, it's like a bully, you know what I mean? It's like you have no idea what that person is going through, so why are you indulging in making their lives worse? And you're also just making yourself worse because you're just inflicting more pain on yourself by carrying that negative energy inside you. So I think it's really easy to hate on bands, saying like, oh, fuck Nickelback. Sorry, can I swear? I don't know if I can swear. Yeah. It's like, forget Nickelback.
This is a rock and roll show.
That band fucking sucks. Yeah, okay. I'm not a fan of Nickelback. Not at all. However, I'm not going to go proclaiming to the world on my like Facebook page or on like our Twitter saying how much I think they're D-bags and losers. I'm not going to do that. Why? Because it's a waste of cyberspace. Why bother doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And so that now relates to people sending the hate towards you. To me, I think it's really important. It's like it's an important part of a band or artist's development to receive hateful or just mean things written about you, especially on the internet, because it's so easy to put that stuff out there now.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's an important part of your development for your career because it's really going to test you to see how you're going to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you get more popular, that's going to happen even more.
Yeah.
So
the more important you are, the more people are going to come out of the woodwork to really go at you.
Exactly. People are ruthless and they're mean. And I personally choose to ignore it. I don't, respond at all. I'll usually laugh because usually what they're saying is very funny and stupid and ridiculous. And more often than not, their comments just it just doesn't make sense. And it's not constructive in any way. It's just like, that girl's hair is stupid. And you're like, okay, like, I'm so sorry my hair, like, offends you.
Oh, yeah.
Just, like, really silly things like, wow, this band really needs fashion help. It's like, well, last time I checked, I'm not in fashion. I'm a musician, and I play music for a living. But, like, good talk. So I don't bother, tweeting back to someone. It's like, what's that going to achieve for yourself? You know what I mean? It's just
it'll drain your energy because at a certain point you get a lot of those people.
Exactly. And it's just hurting your ego and it's just making you feel more insecure. It's like, oh, maybe I'm not good. It's like, hold up. That's like one person and then there's like 10 other people or more who are like, yay, go you. So why are you focusing on that like one negative comment? Think about it. It's not worth it. However, somehow I think it's just in our like weird human nature to not accept or welcome that positive feedback as much as a negative comment. It's like, oh, 20 people just said I'm awesome, and now this one person said something really mean about me, so that's really going to affect like everything.
Yeah.
So I'm now worthless.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
and
I agree.
As a young musician, it's really easy to fall into that trap. And I think that's really toxic, not only just as a person, but also for your craft, because then you're going to start overthinking everything you do to try and please everyone. But newsflash, you can't please everyone. So that. But then I also recently heard from a friend of mine. I'm not sure if you've heard of the band July Talk. They're a pretty awesome up and coming band, and they've spent a lot of time in the States. But the guitarist, he actually retweets stupid tweets that people send to them, like just like really nasty, dumb things, like July Talk, more like July Don't Talk, because they suck. And that's, again, really stupid comment, but he just laughed because he thought it was so funny. So he retweeted it, and then you have all their fans just like hashing it out on this person, and it's so funny. Like, they didn't respond to it, but they retweeted it. So in a way, it's like kind of passive aggressive, but also kind of funny, and just lets their fans and people who support them just like ream that person out. And
if you say you had to defend yourself, but you have an audience, then it's going to take too much of your energy to do it yourself. So why not kind of feed them to
it's an army.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's really toxic behavior, and obviously anyone who's wasting enough time on the internet trolling and just writing stupid shit, it's like, what are you doing with your life? Like, are you doing anything meaningful? Like, obviously not, if you feel the need to put other people down who are just trying to express themselves and make other people feel good. So like, get a life, man. That's all it really comes down to. And the same thing goes for you. Why are you hating on another band? Why are you hating on a promoter? Why are you hating on other people? It's not worth your energy.
No, I've done the same thing, and I know it's important to know where anything comes from, whether it's like your feelings or someone else's feelings towards you. For me, it was definitely just jealousy, and the fact that at the time I wasn't really doing anything about it, so I just felt frustrated. And that's just for my personal situation. But for other musicians, it's the same thing. I can even when I'm next to a musician and say we're both at, like, I was talking about the blues jams, and you know, some musicians make comments about other genres of music. You know, like I've had this conversation with a couple blues artists where they made some offhand comments about hip hop, and they're very like negative comments, and I could see why someone wouldn't be into that genre of music, but I also felt like that wasn't at all. You know, like that there was more to it just in the fact that they weren't into that style of music. Plus, when I asked them like what, you know, well, I was like, well, what are some hip hop acts that you know? And what they would name off wouldn't represent just the full breadth of that genre. You know?
Absolutely not. And that's the thing. There's good and bad in every genre. Personally, I actually listen to everything. And I force myself to listen to everything because I feel that leaves me very like unbiased. Mm-hmm. And it also keeps things really fresh for me because I'm going to pick and take away from things that I'm hearing and liking and everything. Yeah. If I force myself to just surround myself by everything. And if anything, that's made me a much more creative person. Yeah. Whether or not it's good, I don't really care at this point. I'm just trying to be creative and just constantly produce work, right? So art is completely subjective. Mm-hmm. Right? And what I think is good might not be good to the next person. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If someone likes hip hop, go like hip hop. I do not care. I like a lot of hip hop, but I'm a rock musician. Doesn't mean I can't like hip hop at all. Yeah. And and the same thing goes with like metal. Like I love metal. I love country. I love pop music. I think music is a universal language. I think art in general is a universal language. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do things. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's such thing as like a bad genre unless it's dubstep. Bam. Yeah. I'm just kidding. But no, I think being more well-rounded and open to things will just make you a better person, but also a more creative individual. And why not do that? Do research. Figure out. It's like, hey, my goal for this year is to find like 5 hip-hop albums that I might like. Why not? Whether it starts in like the 80s and you like really like MC Hammer, like awesome, do it. Maybe you don't like modern hip-hop. Doesn't mean you don't like hip-hop. Yeah. So it frustrates me when people go on like tangents and they're so like aggressive about music, and then they put you down for the music that you like. It's like, oh, fuck that band.
I mean, just from personal experience, like, I mean, like, I'm like critical about what music I listen to, but there's the time where being critical would be mixed with like just maliciousness. Yeah, and and that was just coming.
To have an opinion. I think it's and then that's the thing. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, like this is nice. Like just be totally like
know what you like and be able to like articulate why you like what you like. But that's it. But like, don't turn it into like some kind of don't put maliciousness behind it, because that really comes from my personal experience. It just comes from like your own personal issues.
And you sound really ignorant as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's really important to form opinions about things, explain like, I'm not really crazy about like synthetic instruments a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. Like, fine, you don't like that, but like, I'm sure you'll be able to find something redeeming about what you're hearing. Mm-hmm. Surely. So I don't know. I think it's important to be constructive all the time and be able to articulate properly what you're hearing and what you don't like. I think that's a job of a musician, is to be like analytical.
Which kind of segues into your third point, because you're talking about being constructive. You as yourself embracing constructive criticism, how important has that been for you?
When I was younger, it was really hard. I had a really difficult time talking to someone in the industry who had all this experience.
Okay. They just had like authority,
Yeah, who had a bit more authority over me. Obviously, they're probably like 20 years my senior. So like, obviously I'm not going to go talking smack to them, but because because I do respect people older than me, and obviously they have more life experience than me. So if someone tells me I'm shit, I'm gonna take that to heart when I'm 16, you know? So I think when I was really young, I had a difficult time processing that and kind of like decoding exactly what they were trying to say. In hindsight now, I think a lot of those people who did take the time to say things like that to me were kind of just dicks. Because they'd say really mean things that I realize now only in hindsight that it just was not constructive. It was just them wanting to be pricks.
Feel a little bit of power.
Yeah, exactly. And just wanting to put like a young girl down. And that really sucks. Like telling me things like, you know, I don't think women should be playing guitar. Like, I think you should just focus on being a karaoke singer. Like, I had someone say that to me once. I've also had people tell me that I can't sing. And I'm like, okay, well, that's your opinion. Like, a lot of people thought that like Rain Maida from Our Lady Peace couldn't sing, but like, look what he did. So just saying. So again, I think art is very subjective, and what might be pleasant to one's ears might not be as pleasant to another person's ears. So saying that like, you're a shitty singer, like, wow, good talk. Like, thanks for being really constructive.
Yeah.
If I asked you like, hey, like, what did you think of the show? And they say, well, you know, like, I'm not too crazy about your voice. Or, hey, have you ever thought of getting like some vocal lessons to get, you know, to expand on your range or to help with your pitch? Like,
so it's a language that separates.
To me, it's exactly. There's a language and a way to articulate yourself to say like, hey, like, I see some potential in you, or I don't really see potential in you, or this is how I think you could do better. So I think it is the job of the musician to be able to quickly decode exactly who this person is and what they're saying, so you can figure out like, is this person just an idiot and just like feeding me bullshit, or is this person worth listening to? Because in the past, I've just listened to everyone, and then I just end up getting hurt too much instead of focusing my attention on the people who do really want to help and who are wanting to, you know, nurture me and guide me in the right direction. And I've missed out on opportunities of developing great mentors in the past, I think. So once I kind of hit like my mid-20s, that's when I was like, I want like a mentor. I want to be open to that constructive feedback and that criticism, because that's only going to make me better. It's like getting like, why do people go get music lessons? Why do people go to school? It's to learn, it's to improve, to expand your mind. So why can't you do that with your art? I find so often people are very protective of what they do, and they take everything very personally. But I think you almost have to just like detach yourself from that, or try to detach yourself from it, and just say like, hey, they're just trying to help. But you as an artist need to know, is this person worth listening to or not? So that's where I think if when an artist or a musician is at that point where they're just too protective of what they're creating, then they're screwed. Like, well, they're also just missing out, I think. Well, they're not going to grow at all. Like, it's like a band saying like, no, we're not going to have a producer. It's like, well, having that like, you know, third eye, that outside pair of ears is going to help you in some way. It's going to help you filter through a lot of the fat and the stuff that you probably don't need. Yeah. So it's like, oh, let's you know, make Thriller with no Quincy Jones. You know? Yeah, exactly. And how's that going to turn out? Yeah. And as musicians, because you're playing the song so much, and you're like, you almost start overthinking it. And I think it reaches often, at least for me, a point where it's like, is this even good? I don't even know anymore because I've just heard it so much. So I think bringing that outside pair of ears to kind of oversee everything, to help lead you to water, they're not telling you what to do. They're just helping you. It's like a therapist. You go see a therapist. They're not telling you to like do X, Y, and Z. They're just trying to like lead you to water to help you realize like, oh, this is another possibility. Okay, I'm open to this, or I'm not. So, so what about, how do you handle it when someone eventually just says no to you? Like, you know, you ask to play somewhere and they say no, or you offer like CDs and people say no, not directly, but by not buying them. Yeah. Um, it's hard, but I think it kind of goes back to one of my earlier points, just about um, how like the constructive criticism and just kind of like not taking it too seriously and taking it to heart. Um, I think when it comes to industry people specifically, hearing no, like, oh, a label doesn't want to pick you up and support you,
Hmm.
that's going to happen. Or an agent doesn't want to help you out and support you. That's tough. Hearing no is really tough. But it doesn't mean that they're always going to say no. Um, and what I mean by that is maybe they just don't think you're ready. Maybe they're just saying no right now because they don't feel you're ready. And in the
Yeah.
past, in my experience, the only times that I've actually heard no from industry people is because I wasn't ready. I wasn't marketable at the time, in the sense that I didn't know what I was doing, and that's going to tie into my other points.
Hmm.
Um, I hadn't discovered who I was yet, and that's okay. I also think maybe the music wasn't tight enough. I think we weren't maybe as well rehearsed as we could have been. The songs weren't there yet. There's tons of factors.
Yeah.
But I think hearing no, at least when I hear no now, it just means that I'm going to work that much harder until I get that yes.
Hmm.
Because although they're saying no now, when that happens, I just try to prove them wrong. It's like, no, this is why you really want to say yes to me.
Okay. Well, it's
And
like
now,
taking.
and now I'll just get what I want. I'm just kidding.
Well, you take a negative, take a no, and you use it as fuel for something positive, which is like
Yeah.
motivation to improve.
And maybe they'll still say no. Like tons of people said no to the Beatles. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not comparing myself to the Beatles, but all I'm saying is people said no to the Beatles and they thought that that band would go nowhere.
Yeah.
And then someone took a chance on them. Someone said, yeah, it only takes one person to say yes to you. And they took that chance on them and boom, they became the Beatles. I bet you that guy is probably like kicking himself
Yeah.
for saying no to the Beatles.
I think
And that's going to happen.
this next point that you made in the article, I think is really interesting. It's it's number 5: work out and eat real. Now, being that you're a rock musician, it seems very strange from what society makes us want to expect that rock musicians do. But working out, the line of coke, or working out, in other different ways, working out the pelvic thrust.
Working out your arm.
Yeah, working out the arm, and so, but for you, it's totally different. Like you like to do exercises, like when you're on the road, do like push-ups or bring loose weights and
Yep.
eat good food. Why is that so important? Why is that more important than living the quote unquote rock star
Life?
lifestyle?
Well, I never used to. I was always just like a scrawny little noodle. And I was like, I don't need to work out. I'm skinny, whatever. Don't even worry about it. And then after like 3 years of touring and eating like McDonald's and whatever road food you can get, not that I got like fat, but I got like really soft and mushy and just like I felt like really gross. Like you're sitting in a van for extended periods of time and you're sweating every night and you stink. And it's not just from BO, it's from like the food you're eating. And
You're
that's
sweating
seeping
out
through
that
you're
McDonald's
sweating
grease.
out that like you're getting meat sweats. That's what that is.
Oh,
It's
that just sounds
disgusting.
gross.
It's just very
Yeah.
gross, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for everyone involved because fans will smell that and they see that and they're like, that's not hot." So I never used to exercise. I didn't really take care of myself, and what really changed it all for me was when last fall I lost my voice. We had done 295 shows in a year, which is crazy for a band that's like still sleeping on floors and like has $15 per diems and is traveling in a van. It's not a bus. It's not glamorous touring. So, and we were flying all over the place as well. We were going to Europe like 4 times, to the States a bunch, and it was a really hectic year. So I lost my voice last fall and I panicked and I'm like, oh my God, I have nodes. I'm dying. Like, what's happening? I go to the doctor and he's like, you don't have nodes. You're just extremely tired. And I was like, okay, so like just sleep. He's like, no. He's like, your body's just like KO'd. It's just done. And so I was like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? He's like, what do you eat? And so I described my diet basically on the road, which was like Tim Hortons like bagel with cream cheese, for breakfast or like with peanut butter, and then, you know, a burger for lunch or dinner, and then maybe a salad that was from like with like iceberg lettuce. It's not, basically I was like dying of scurvy. So I didn't have scurvy, but I was just really unhealthy and I was lacking a lot of nutrition, and my body was basically giving me all these warning signs, but I was ignoring them. So the only way my body knew how to like make me slow down and stop was by saying, nah, you're not singing anymore. Mm-hmm. You're not listening to me, so I'm going to make you listen. Mm-hmm. So that's what my body did to me, basically. So that really like flipped a switch in my brain. And I was like, shit, like if I want to do this for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to smarten my act up and like start taking care of myself.
Like
I
Prince.
was never, yeah, well, yeah. I was never like, I've never been a big drinker or anything like that. So that was never an issue. It was just more so getting the right sleep, taking care of myself, like my body and eating properly. And so I realize now, like just within a year, like I make sure I get that 8 hours of sleep when I can. And if I can't for whatever reason, I make sure I'm taking naps, or I make sure that I'm like eating at least really, really well that day and drinking tons of water to just balance stuff out, because there's no such thing as like the perfect person, and you can't always be taking care of yourself 100% of the time. Stuff comes up, people get busy. But you can make some serious adjustments.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can make some serious adjustments as a touring musician to make sure that your life is in order, because it's easy to slip into that like mess. It's a nightmare. It's horrible.
Because
you
get
really
lost in it
scary.
because it's stressful and you're doing
also touring is just like a weird like time vortex. You don't realize like how much of an effect it has on you, but it's a total escape from reality, because you every day is just like this weird cyclical thing where you're like driving, loading in, dinner, play a show, party, go to bed, do the same thing over and over. That's not real life. So for me as a musician, I realize I'm like, I need to just treat this as my job. If I was going to an office every day, then I would make sure that I'm like eating properly and I'm like awake and everything's kosher so I can perform properly at work. So I'm just basically trying my best to apply that. And I realized as soon as I started exercising, like I do endurance training and interval training. I'm not sure if you know what TRX is, but it's a suspension trainer. You can like mount it in any door. So I do that at our hotels now. It's pretty freaking awesome, but it gets you ripped, and I love it. I swear by it. And it's great for traveling because it weighs nothing. It weighs like 2 pounds, and it's just like straps that you mount in a door, and it's a full body workout. And ever since I started working out, I have more energy. I can do crazier stuff on stage because I'm more flexible and I'm stronger, and I can just put on a way better show now because my endurance is just like through the roof. And because I'm eating well, I'm eating like enough protein and getting enough vegetables. So now that recovery is a lot faster. I don't need like 2 days to recover after like a really big show. I literally need like a night's sleep, and then I'm like good to go the next day. Whereas before I'd only be able to play 3 shows in a week. Now it's like, boom, every night, let's do this. So I just realized that in order to fuel a good show, you need to have good fuel at being your food, but you also need to fuel your body with like energy, which is exercising. So
Don't make it hard on yourself, basically. Is what this is all about.
You're also going to look way hotter, so
it can only help you. It can only help you.
You're only going to benefit from it. You're going to attract way babelier babes. So everyone wins.
So do a little bit of these.
Yeah, check out this sweet type.
There you go, man. There you go. Do you shoot that off on stage?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, nice.
Have arm wrestle halfway through the set too.
Nice.
No, it's great. I just swear by just taking care of yourself as best you can. And obviously that's not always doable. So in my article, I talk about, bringing a cooler, stops to the grocery store instead of stops to McDonald's or fast foods. Yeah. Like
that'd be cheaper too.
It's way cheaper, and you can save your money to do really cool stuff in towns instead. It's like, hey, I didn't spend my per diems today because boom, I have breakfast food in the van all ready to go.
Yeah.
I usually make a huge batch of granola bars before I leave for tour. I bring like carrots and like a huge thing of peanut butter. I bring bread with me. So I'm saving tons of money. And then by the end of the week, it's like, hey, I can treat myself to a really awesome meal in like Paris tonight. Like, let's do it. This is great. So I think you're just having like maximal awesome experience. Maximal? Is that a word? I think I just made up a word.
Maximum overdrive.
Maximal. That's the person's name, I'm pretty sure.
Maximus was the main character in Gladiator.
Yeah, I'm just making up stuff now. That's a good name though, Maximus. Anyway, maximum awesomeness in a town and life. So it's good.
So I'm just kidding. No, that was awesome. I love tangents. I'm just saying it like this on purpose to make you self-conscious. Just kidding. So you're talking about tours a lot, okay?
Yeah.
How important is it to plan ahead? I mean, should we just like run at stuff and not know what the hell we're doing?
Totally, every day of life. Well, no, I think in life in general, it's kind of important to think ahead. Like, what are my goals in life? Like, where do I see myself in 5 years? And I'm not just talking about music. I'm just talking generally speaking. Most people are like, I would love to travel the world, or like, I'd love to own a house one day, or I'd love to have a dog, or whatever your goal may be. Everyone has a goal. Everyone has a dream of some sort, whether it's like one day being a unicorn or whatever. Everyone has a dream. So unicorn might not be realistic, but
well, you can take a horse and tie a horn
on it.
Yeah,
it's true. So yeah, I think having goals for yourself, but also for your band is really important. And any company would do that. It's like, hey, let's see the trajectory of this year and how can we do even better next year? How can we do even better 5 years from now? So I think just planning ahead for everything is going to save you a lot of headaches, instead of saying like, oh, like shit, we just released an album, like let's throw together a tour. Guess what? That tour is probably not going to be a success, or as much of a success as you hoped it would be, because you literally just whipped this together in a month. Most good tours, you're looking at like 6 months minimum of strategic planning and like promotion and getting people excited about the tour, because if you don't have demand, then no one's going to come. No one's going to care about you. So what we usually do, or at least what we're doing now, we're in like a ghosting stage where we're just writing. And then after the writing, you start sharing with people you're close with, maybe. And then after that, oh, let's record a demo. And then after that, let's actually record it. And then after that, let's start getting people excited about what we've recorded. Okay, after that, let's try to get this on the radio so we can get people even more excited on a grander scale. So I think having goals like that and planning ahead in that sense, and almost like charting out what you foresee. Obviously, not everything is going to always work out, but it at least allows you to visualize what you want to happen instead of just kind of blindly going at it.
Which is what most musicians do.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, being in a band or just being an artist in general, it is a business. Whether or not you want to accept that, it's totally true. Yeah. And I think what is amazing about today's music generation is that, yeah, obviously there's some like horrible things with like downloading, and you can't really rely on.
There's nothing we can do, so we have to move.
There's nothing we can do, so move on. So how else can we make money, right? So planning ahead in the sense of like, hey, how can we get money without going into like, how can we get money to fund our next project without going into insane personal debt? What about like crowdsourcing? We did a pledge campaign, which was a huge success for us, and it was a great way to get our fans involved. So in a sense, planning ahead and thinking about that kind of stuff is going to benefit everyone, because you're getting money, for example, in this situation, but also your fans feel like they're a part of it. Guess what's going to happen after that? They're probably going to come to your show because they now feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That was a tangent again.
No. It makes total sense. I mean, it's just one of those things that we know, but
you do, and that's why writing down is really important.
Yeah,
and
like anything anything we're talking about, period, if you don't do it or put it into action, it's not going to mean shit, you know? So I think that's the dividing line between what you may call like success and not being successful, is that line of action. You know, you have people who you can tell them it's important. Hey, it's important to plan it, and they'll look at you and be like, yeah, man, should plan. Yeah. But they're not going to do it. They're
not going to do it. And that's why a lot of bands break up and fail, because they don't set goals for themselves and for within the band. And
but they still have expectations, which I think
exactly.
is like,
but their expectations are that it's just going to happen. It's like, I'm going to write this amazing song and I'm going to be a rock star. It's like you kind of missed like 30 steps in there, because it just doesn't happen overnight.
Which begins with the song. Begins with the great
It begins
song.
with a song. You're not going to have a career if you don't have a good song.
Yeah.
But I think treating your band like a business, knowing when to separate the two, but still treating it like a business, is I think the most important thing. And that's what's so beautiful about today is there's so many amazing resources for musicians and artists where you can have a business, have a successful career without being on like a major label. And you can have a very great long career as a musician without being like a sellout. So I think
in other words, maintaining control. Whoa, I just hit the shit out of my laptop there. Sorry about that. Bam.
Really,
I was so excited. I wanted to throw up my hand. I was like, yeah.
All right. So no, I think just treating it like a business, but also knowing when to take that hat off and just put your creative hat on is really important. So planning, just plan everything. Be a mom for your band. Always.
But not a soccer mom.
Soccer moms are cool.
Or a helicopter mom. Have you ever heard that one? The helicopter mom who hovers around her kid? I'm just kidding. That'd probably be a good thing.
Oh, that's horrible. Oh man, that's a great Halloween costume.
Yeah, there you go. You could have like, helicopter blades coming out of your back, and then you're
it's like trick or treating, and they're like, "What are you?" I'm like, "Helicopter mom."
That actually is awesome. That's an awesome idea. Oh man,
just like be a mom dressed up like literally as a helicopter, but with like a head poking out.
Oh man,
I'm gonna patent that.
Awesome.
You can't take it.
Oh man. So you're mentioning you were just talking about treating music in your music career as a business. What's your view on money? Because here's the thing: a lot of musicians want to make it, but then when it comes to actually making it, they feel held back because they don't want to be pushy, or they're worried about what other people think about them when it comes time to actually get money for something. I mean, that's my impression with most of the musicians that I've ever met.
It's tricky. Like I said before, the pledge campaign was really helpful as like a band unit, not on like a personal level. But pledge campaign was really great. Unfortunately, in the States, you guys don't have this awesome system like we do, where you can apply for government grants.
Oh.
And I'm not sure if you guys have anything like that over there, but that is a really, really great way to support your demo, support your next tour. There are some really great resources in Canada that you can take advantage of for sure. You're not going to be a millionaire. Newsflash. Being a musician now, unless you're like Coldplay or U2 because they got bought out by Apple, you're not going to be a millionaire. There's no way that's ever going to happen
unless
again.
you become a venture capitalist, which is what a lot of those musicians do.
Yeah. So, but there's really, really great ways to still make money. Like, hey, why don't you write an epic soundtrack for a movie, or licensing? That's related to that, but licensing your music. That's a really, really great way, for people to hear your music, because they're going to watch a show or a commercial and be like, who is that? They're going to soundhound it. Boom. They're going to want to come out to your show.
Yeah.
So I think as far as band money goes,
we need to make a ton of it. Because we won't be happy unless we're millionaires. It's
not going to happen. I'm sorry. I am not a millionaire. And guess what? I have 2 day jobs. And that's how I support myself on top of the bands. Like, yes, I get royalties from radio play and from performing, but it's not lucrative enough. Let's be honest. So For like mid-level bands, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's also very easy to complain about it. But guess what? You chose this as your career. You chose this path, so you kind of have to take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
And again, like I said before, it's about perspective.
Yeah.
I could be pissed that I have to work 2-day jobs, but at the same time, at the end of the day, I know I'm still getting fulfilled because I'm doing what I really want to do.
But there's also probably like a lot of on the things that you could also do on the marketing and business side that would help with that. You know, it's just like it's like there's so many new things popping up every day. You know,
yeah, oh, absolutely.
That like, say for instance, house concerts. I think before I started talking with the first artists who were doing that, I had never heard of them. And then when I started hearing about them and actually seeing what opportunity was there to actually make a decent income, that like completely shifted my perspective about what kind of opportunities there are for musicians, you know, in terms of like before that it was tunnel vision, you know, you think, okay, well, you learn about sync licensing. That's one. The next thing you learn about is email marketing to sell albums. That's another thing. And then you just keep on, as you learn more and more strategies.
The tree grows.
You have more tools in your belt for that. So how do you, going on to point number 8, know who you are and what you want? Why is that so important when it comes to the business aspect?
I think it's really important because it's going to make your message very clear. And knowing who you are means industry people are going to understand you better. So they're going to want to get on board with that more because they'll see a clear package. If you know who you are and you know that the music you're making is the absolute truest form of you, it's like the package is there. But people who are like, oh, I want to be like this band and I want to sound like this band, it's never genuine. And it comes off as really phony because it's not you.
Yeah.
The natural you is just like sitting down and not thinking about what you want to make and you just do it.
Yeah.
And those are, to me, are the most successful people who are just like undeniably like unapologetically just them and just true and honest. And that's what people appreciate. It's really easy to spot a phony.
Yeah.
It's really, really easy.
It's kind of like the knockoff brands.
Yeah.
You go to the store
and everyone wants something that they can actually relate to.
Yeah.
It's like, why would I want to listen to like another, you know, I keep using this band as a reference, but like redigested version of like Nickelback. It's like, it sounds the same. There's nothing
like
appealing about it.
Mud. That's the first thing that pops into my mind.
Yeah.
This kind of like, okay, I don't want to get too critical. I'm going to go on that tangent there.
But the thing is like, just staying true to yourself. And that's what it comes down to. If you know who you are and you're staying true to yourself and you're smart, you're not going to get all walked over. Get walked all over. Yeah, get walked all over.
All walked over.
by the industry. Sorry, I'm like stumbling on my words here. But no one's going to walk all over you because they're going to be like, oh, like shit, like this person's business. They're not messing around. They know exactly what they want out of this career path. And we can't mess with them.
Yeah.
And they'll take you very seriously.
Yeah. It'll be harder to take advantage of you because you show that you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then that's also going to be an easier way to figure out who your demographic is.
What would you say is the message of the balconies?
I'd say the message of the balconies is that we just really want people to get lost in the moment with us and just have fun. Like us, we're about like high energy, fun performances. And for a long time, I tried to like deny that. I wanted to be like a serious rock band. And we kind of like played with that a little bit, but I realized that we had the most exciting responses when we were just ourselves, because we're not angry, dark, mean people. We're like happy, fun, silly, goofy people, and we're quirky people. So we're like, how do we make that come across? Boom, just be yourself. You don't have to think about it. You already know who you are. You just need to like conceptualize and like Does that make sense?
Or like have
You
right
really,
perspective that encourages you to be yourself. Because I think some like some musicians, they have that comparison model where they feel like they have to, in
live
order
up.
to be successful, they look at other artists who are successful. I do the same thing. And you think that you have to embody something about that artist in order to have that same success. And so that leads you away, actually from being yourself. But the artists who I think get past that, that I listen to, and I can hear them, they're being themselves. They still retain their influences, but they've morphed those influences into a completely new sound that is uniquely them. Like you think of Nine Inch Nails. What did he quote? He quoted like he listened to a lot of Public Enemy, and then there was one other band, and then you can't. It's like if that's his interpretation of those influences, then that's pretty badass because it's uniquely him.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I read this really amazing book. I'm not sure if you know Austin Kleon. Do you know who he is?
No.
He's a great author. You should read this book. It's called 10 Steal Like an Artist, and it's 10 ways
Okay, that sounds
to
familiar.
be like a better artist. And he also just came out with another book, 10 Ways to Show Your Work, and the book is called Show Your Work. And he has this really awesome, he basically broke it down and was saying the best artists are the ones who you can't figure out who their influences are unless they tell you.
Yeah. Then you can hear it once
There's a really great Frank Zappa quote as well. It's like the best, most successful artists are the ones you can't like pinpoint exactly who their influences are because they're literally picking from everything and everyone. And that's why I think it's so important to be open-minded. And again, all these points are just kind of relating to each other. Just being open-minded and basically kind of doing research in the sense that, hey, I'm going to take a walk today and just kind of like observe what's going on around me. Whether it's traffic, whether it's someone like running past me, make up stories of what's going on. And that is an influence. That is influencing you in one way or another. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be listening to music to influence you. Go watch movies. Go see a play. Go see a musical. Yeah. Everything you do is influencing you in some way or another, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah. Because music can be expression.
That's what makes people creative. Exactly. Yeah. Music is just your platform, but doesn't mean that you can only listen to music in order to be inspired.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're getting really deep into art, then music, painting, architecture, building I would argue that even building a business is like part of a journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Creative process, busting through obstacles, dealing with personal fears. It's all the same. It's all the same stuff when it comes down to it.
And talk to other people as well. Like pick their brains. People like talking about themselves. So figure out, how do people stay creative? How do people do this? How do people do that? What do you do to make money? What do you do to help make your band make money? Yeah. I think that's what's so amazing about like this stuff, technology, is that like you can connect with all these random amazing people. Yeah. And guess what? You're getting influenced by them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully like everyone who watches the show, they're slowly being influenced by each and every interview that comes across, which is
exactly.
I mean, not only do I learn a lot in the process, but hopefully everyone who watches or listens like experiences the same thing. But on the lines of creativity, going into number 10, there's actually a pretty personal thing for me because you're saying that creativity doesn't just go away, and the reason I'm saying it's personal for me is because I have someone who's very close to me who was in a rut where he did not pick up an instrument for years, and he confided in me and said that he just felt like he didn't have it anymore. Like he had just kind of lost that. It was more than just writer's block or I don't have any ideas. It was like it went really, really into some deep-setted the issues. Have you ever? I mean, was it like when you talked about that in this article? Was it like that for you, or was it just something like I can't think of any song structures or?
Honestly, I think as people in general, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to to do certain things a certain way. We always, when you're like a kid and you're like, I want to draw this, and you draw it and it just does not turn out the way you like envision it in your head.
The face doesn't look right.
Yeah. You're like, the face is lopsided. What's happening? But the way you see it in your head is completely different from what you just put on the piece of paper. And that's really disappointing for a child. We're disappointing for anyone when you like build it up and have these like high expectations. And this can relate to anything in life, I feel. And then you see the outcome, and you're like, that's not what I expected. But I've kind of learned whatever the outcome is, that's how it was meant to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it's really hard to kind of like let go of insecurities. And I think that's what fuels a lot of the creative blocks and a lot of the unwanting or desire to create, because we start, as adults, we naturally start overthinking everything and we start criticizing everything.
Yeah.
And we start wondering, like, what are people going to think of this? Like, how is this going to be perceived? Whereas when you're a kid, every kid is born creative. You're not affected or influenced by anything. It's just only over the years, and I've read tons of books about this, about being creative.
Yeah.
Whereas over the years, you are nurtured and you're influenced, and you change, and you start hearing this like weird inner tape, thinking like you're basically just judging yourself.
Yeah.
Before anyone's ever judged you, you are the first person to judge yourself. You're your own worst critic, basically, right? So I think that's what fuels a lot of people's unwanting to play anymore, or feeling like they just don't have it anymore. I think it's just insecurity, because they're basically visualizing that picture in their head, and then when it comes down on the paper, they don't think it's good enough, or they worry that it's not good enough.
Yeah, good enough for what? Good enough for other people, good enough to make a career out of, good enough for
exactly.
Instead of just
making the art,
being in the process, focusing on the journey and just creating it, and learning from that, and just striving to make it different or better.
Yeah. And that's why I like, I'm such a, and again, this relates back to my other point. Oh shoot, what was I going to say? I had it like such a great thought.
Too much powerful statements.
I know. No. Well, basically what I'm trying to say is you can't overthink it. And I'm writing every single day. Whether it's good or not, I don't even think about that. I don't even consider it as an option anymore, because I used to get into that really toxic thinking where I'd be like, oh, like this,
I'm going to try and write something good. Let go of that. Just write. And
all of my best work has happened when I wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I think we're like all kind of born with like the equal opportunities to create something. I think it's just a matter of like, again, it's the nature versus nurture thing, but like I do think that everyone has the ability to be whatever they want. And
just how much of your personal blockage can you remove?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's gonna determine that.
So when I'm writing now, I am like consciously telling myself, do not worry. Do not think about it. You're just sitting down and you're writing. Another little exercise I do for myself, if I do feel like I have writer's block, is I'll do like writing exercises, or I'll create limitations for my work. Like, I think I talked about this in my piece. One day I was like, I'm just going to sit down, and so I'm basically doing the opposite and saying, I'm going to write a song about my dog. Okay, for example, I'm going to write a song about my dog, instead of just saying, I'm just going to sit down and write down whatever comes first to mind. It's like now I'm forcing myself to write something specific. So that's creating a limitation, like a restriction for myself. Yeah. And that's forcing me to think even harder. So once you do that, I think that's going to start getting the wheels turning a little bit, and then you can let go of the trying so hard mentality. Does that make sense at all?
No, it does.
It makes sense in my head.
No, it does.
I'm saying it really weirdly, but I think if you create restrictions for yourself at first, like let's say on a Monday you create all these restrictions for yourself and you're like, I'm writing haikus and poems using iambic pentameter
Yeah.
and or I'm just going to use ABA form or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm going to write a song about a tree or I'm going to write a song about this bottle next to
Yeah.
me. It's forcing you to do creative writing that you don't really want to do. Who wants to
Yeah.
write a song about a blue water bottle? Who wants to hear a song
Yeah.
about that? But it's just forcing you to think outside the box and just forcing you to get creative
Yeah.
and make something.
Yeah, what you're talking about is like a common theme in a lot of different areas, and it does make sense because
Yeah.
if you just take the time to, if anyone takes the time to read about the lives of any successful person, any person that did something of worth or value, they were working with limitations, and those limitations forced them to come up with novel connections that led to solutions. You know what I mean? Like Gandhi had limitations when in pursuit of his goal. Martin Luther King had limitations in pursuit of his goal. You think of other musicians; they had limitations too. They didn't. Not every single resource available was dropped into their lap. You know, they had to work with what they got. And I think that just goes back to what you're talking about writing, is like, don't start with every possible idea, try to limit that, and that will force you to say it in a more unique way rather than if you just
And
had
then
all the
I
colors.
think the natural ideas will just start flowing through you. Like I think there's a way around writer's block and I've had it for sure. But that's when I start being extra hard on myself and I don't worry about the phone or the computer. And actually Austin Kleon, that book I was telling you about, he talks about this a lot. He has a digital station and he has an analog working station. The analog working station is like the judgment-free zone where there's no technology around you. It's just like your medium and like paper, basically. That's all you can use. And then once you feel comfortable in that zone, then you can take it to the iPhone or your computer or, you know, something more concrete to make it immortal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could talk about this forever, but I think it's really important to just let go of your insecurities as an artist and just say, fuck it. I'm just gonna do it. And do it every single day. Even if you feel like you're writing the shittiest thing or painting the shittiest thing, it doesn't matter. It's still being creative and it's still keeping that
flexing that muscle.
Oh, this was my point when I was talking about how if you think you've made it, then you should just quit. It's the same thing with your creativity. Like, I have a lot of respect for Paul McCartney. Maybe not everyone does, but I have to hand it to him. He's one of those people who has always tried to outdo himself, and he's always tried to continue writing the best song he can.
Yeah.
Whereas there's some artists you're like, you should just give up. Like, come on. Like, you're not doing anything different, or you're not improving or evolving in any way. Whereas I think with Paul McCartney, he's a really, really smart guy, and he is constantly evolving as an artist and a person. And he always sets goals for himself, and that I really admire in him. Whether or not you like him as like a person, as an artist, I think he's brilliant. And I try to approach my work with the same mentality, where it's like, I'm always gonna try to outdo myself, but not put the pressure on myself.
Yeah.
But when I say outdo myself, I just mean always try to learn more and engage in more.
Take one step forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, because I think as people, we're just every day, and life is basically about figuring it out. And I think even when you die, you will not have figured it out.
Yeah.
So I think music should be like that. It's a journey.
Yeah. And a journey that we should all be grateful as we're walking it, which brings me to the last number 11 here. This could also be interpreted as don't be a douchebag, in my opinion. Yeah. But, you know, be grateful for what you have right now. I mean, if we're going to think about, okay, get past like the la-di-da frou-frou-ness of, you know, be grateful.
Be grateful, like, I know. Yeah.
What about like practically, like what have you noticed a change in your career once you started focusing on being grateful for things you have?
Well, I remember there were many times when we were like in Europe and I just felt like really crummy. Like I was missing like all my friends and family, and we had been away from home for months, and I was just like, oh, this sucks. Like, where's my life going? Like, I'm not making any money. It's really, like I said, easy to fall into that kind of cyclical, like evil mental thinking. And and then I realized that holy shit, like I'm in Europe playing music that is mine, that I created myself from my brain and like my hands. I did this, and I have this band, and we're playing in front of an audience who came to see us, who's then buying our t-shirts and our CDs, and we made them feel something. I don't think a lot of people can say that they do that every day.
Yeah.
And also, I make myself feel stuff when I'm playing music. Like, holy shit, like I didn't realize I was feeling upset about something, and I just wrote this really amazing sad song, and now I'm like crying. But it's good because I think it's really normal for us to like suppress memories and feelings, and then they'll come out in really weird ways. And for me, it's through song.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time I don't even realize that it's happening. And then I'm like, holy crap, like that's amazing. And this is like some of the best work I've ever made because I just let it happen.
Yeah.
But I think being grateful just in general as a person is extremely important, just to lead a good, healthy, and happy life. Like, yeah, it's hard being a musician because you're going to be poor and you're away from your loved ones, but you're also, I think, contributing to society and giving people culture and room to feel things and think about things. And I think that's a really beautiful and amazing thing.
Yeah.
So
it's like in service of a higher thing. I think we all want to be successful for ourselves, so that we can pay the bills and do what we enjoy every day. But there's also,
of course, it's so easy to put a dollar value. And Iggy Pop actually just recently wrote an amazing article about this. Because we live in like a very capitalist world, we rate success based on a numerical dollar value.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's fine. But as an artist, that's really toxic and really going to just destroy you and eat you alive. Yeah. If you can change that thinking and say like, what does success mean to me? What does music mean to me?
Yeah.
If you can switch it around, it's like, to me, success is making someone feel something.
Yeah.
To me, success is knowing that, like, for that hour that I was playing or that 30 minutes that I was playing, I made someone think about something, or I made someone totally forget about all the outside bullshit for just that time that we were together.
Yeah.
To me, that's what success is. And as an artist, I think you should always go in making people want to feel or think about something.
Yeah. No, that comes back to that age-old question is, what is success? But no artist should place intrinsically a dollar value on their art, period.
No.
That dollar value is just talking about the value of your music in a marketplace.
Yeah.
But that's not a self-worth thing. That's just like,
no.
If you want to make a living as a musician, you have to pay attention to that. And it's a rough balance to make, but definitely.
And it's not just, sorry, go ahead. I'm interrupting you.
No, sorry.
It's not just dollar value though. It's also like with social media, it's so easy to get caught up in numbers and say like, oh, well, I have X amount of followers.
Oh, that stuff is even more BS.
Like that's even, it's not real. Like that whole world isn't real. And yeah, it's a great way to gauge things. Like you can gauge what your demographic is. You can gauge like how many people are engaging with you.
But don't get depressed about it.
Don't get depressed saying like, oh, well, this band has this many followers and I only have this many followers. It's like, yeah, but those followers are following you. That's all that matters.
They clicked a like button or they clicked a follow button. But I know artists that have 3,000 likes on Facebook and they're full time. And then I know other artists that have 10,000 likes on Facebook and they're not full time with their music. So as far as I can say for sure, as far as it comes to actually making a living with music, the number on your social media isn't like an accurate gauge for that.
It means nothing.
So be grateful for the things that actually matter, like the reaction that someone has in the crowd when you're playing, I mean, that's...
Well, yeah, but also just in life in general, like when I wake up in the morning now, I'm like, dude, I'm alive, and I can pretty much say that all my family and all my friends are healthy and safe, and I get to be creative for a living, or, I get to have food on my table. Yeah. Like all of that stuff, it's so easy to complain about first world problems, and I'm obviously not perfect. I complain about shit all the time, but if I at least am mindful of like what's going on out here and in here, I think that, well, I know that if I keep doing that and keep focusing on what is important and what success means to me and what I want out of life, then I am going to have a long career and a happy, good life in general.
Well, I think you're on the right track. I mean, even just all the points that we've covered in the article, a lot of people, it's resonated with a lot of musicians. It's, here's where a social media number does actually indicate something, is when people share content, when they share what you're talking about.
That's really nice.
It's been shared like over 600 times. I was like, whoa, for Music Think Tank, that's a really large, I think it's a really, really large number. So
that's awesome.
And I think that you're on the right track for sure. So,
thanks.
But yeah, I think
I hope I didn't sound too preachy.
No,
I can sound preachy sometimes.
Because there was no finger pointing and there was no like.
I'm still learning. This is just my guidelines that have helped me. So I'm still learning every day, and I think that's what the whole point of this is. Music isn't even a career you choose. I think music is a lifestyle. Being an artist is a lifestyle. Yeah. And that's why I set those guidelines for myself, because in order for me to achieve this lifestyle, I need to have realistic expectations of myself. And yes.
Yep. No, for sure. But Jacquie, thanks for coming on. I mean, this has actually been...
I just talked to you off like
awesome.
an hour.
No, it's full of light. No, I mean, no, it's been like an awesome interview, because usually we don't cover so much of a breadth of what it means to be a musician and all these things that go into it. And I think that for me, it's been fun just like listening to you go through just this like wide gamut of all these different things that have made a difference for you, and just being able to be happy. It's almost like, okay, well, obviously $1 million isn't going to make you happy, but being like $0 isn't going to do that either. But for you being a musician that does not have the traditional label deal, but yet you're still able to like day to day like be enjoying it, I think that's a huge step forward for any musician. But thanks for writing that article. And
thanks for reading it.
And
thanks for having me. I know, it was great talking with you.
Okay. All right. Well, I will sign off now, and we'll hope to have you back on the show maybe in a year or two.
When I take over the world.
Check back in. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you. Take care, man.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.